I'm SRantz, second year chemical engineering major, and my presentation is going to be on oil refineries and their adverse effects on society. Alright, I'm going to start by going over a brief synopsis of what oil refining is. It basically is extracted in the field as crude oil, and that's just the rawest form. It has a bunch of impurities that we need to remove before we can process it into usable products. It contains impurities such as sulfur, nitrogen, oxygen, and water. The first step in refining is you heat the crude oil to 350 degrees Celsius, which would then form a vapor, and from here the oil moves to a fractioning tower. And once inside the fractioning tower, this vaporized oil moves up through the fractioning tower through trays that have holes in them. And once inside the fractioning tower, the vapor condenses and stratifies into different usable liquids. Towards the surface, more liquids such as kerosene and naphtha will form. And towards the bottom, there will be heavier liquids such as lubricants, waxes, and they fall to the bottom of the trays through weirs. And some of the heavier liquids can be processed into gasoline, since gasoline is in such high demand these days. And some of these processes they use to form gasoline from the heavier liquids include reforming, alkylation, and cracking. And alkylation is a very controversial topic because it uses hydrofluoric acid, which is prone to explosions, which I'll cover later on. And gasoline and other fuels, they undergo distillation and further processing before they can reach the market. Currently, in the United States, there are 150 domestic refineries that are working in 32 states. The refineries are, one of the biggest problems is they emit large amounts of air pollution, and some of the emissions are sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, particulate matter, volatile organic compounds, which once they are in the atmosphere are actually photochemically reactive, so those can have other implications as well. Benzene, naphthalene, hydrogen fluoride, hydrogen cyanide, hydrogen sulfide, and mercury. Benzene is another controversial emission because benzene has associations with a higher risk of leukemia. And some of the emissions are carcinogenic, as I just mentioned, and logically, living near a refinery would put one at a greater risk for cancer, which this has been proven because there was a study at the Lysekil refinery in Sweden in 2009 which demonstrated a 50% higher rate of leukemia in areas that are exposed to refinery emissions. They found 33 reported cases of leukemia when only 22 cases were expected. Yeah, one of the biggest problems with refineries is because they're extremely outdated. I did research and I saw that one of the most recent refineries implemented was in 2008 in Wyoming, and there has not been a new refinery built since then, which 2008 is now 2015. They do not keep proper maintenance. One of the main problems is corrosive pipes in refineries, which is a huge issue because, as I mentioned before, there's hydrofluoric acid and other components that they use in refining that are highly explosive. Also, refinery workers are put to the test. They're worked to 12-hour shifts for 30 straight days, which is also making things much more accident prone. The explosions are rare, but they do occur. So far in 2015, we've had 3, and the one I covered in my research was a fairly bad one that occurred in Torrance, California. The explosion at the refinery was so big that it actually registered as a 1.4 magnitude earthquake, and residents around the area for 3.5 miles were picking up catalyst dust, which is made from aluminum oxide and other materials. It has smaller trace amounts of nickel and vanadium. And this catalytic dust that was released was not actually toxic or harmful, but can imagine having 3.5 mile area around a refinery blanketed in catalytic dust like snow. It's a bit of an issue. In addition to that, there were twin stacks at the refinery that were burning and releasing volatile gases into the atmosphere for 28 straight hours. As I mentioned before, the biggest issue with refineries is that they do not follow proper safety practices. As I mentioned several times, some of them are still using modified hydrofluoric acid, which is used in the alkylation process, which is just highly flammable, and there are other safer methods available nowadays that can be implemented. It's been estimated that 50 refinery workers have passed away since 2007 in refinery-related accidents. Another notable explosion occurred in Richmond, California in 2007 due to improper maintenance procedures. There was a corroded pipe that erupted, and it injured 6, and it released a toxic cloud over San Francisco Bay. And due to this toxic cloud that was released, 15,000 residents actually sought out medical assistance. This accident in Richmond, California actually prompted the California Governor Jerry Brown to establish an interagency working group on refinery safety, which they tried to put penalties and other repercussions on poor refinery practices. However, the imposed penalties did not deter air pollution from the refineries. ExxonMobil is notorious for not controlling their air pollution. They've had to pay over $15 million in fines in the past couple of years. The Torrance refinery that's run by Chevron it has been in a high priority violation of the Clean Air Act for every quarter since 2011, and some of these violations are classified as significant violations, and these violations carry repercussions of $100,000 fine violations, so 12 times 100,000, that's already well over $1 million in just those. And that is all. You guys have any questions?